If it was ever possible to feel like a movie was literally on crack, this one was the one that found the way. Imagine riding a bicycle and having a newspaper fly into your face. You trying to read the newspaper and immediately 10 more fly into your face. That's literally how this movie went. Mean Girls. So Mean Girls literally, and I'm gonna have to comment on it immediately because it was literally so much, I could not even keep up. The beginning was so fast paced. Like literally within like 8 minutes of the movie, it was already like the next scene, next scene, next scene, next scene, next scene. And it was like, I'm still in the credits. I'm still processing the opening. I'm still learning the characters' names. I know their names. I'm still learning the characters' names, and it feels like we've already got into the bulk of the movie. Like, I am not gonna lie, this is how it feels. Especially coming from someone who did not remember really the original Mean Girls because I watched it like 12 years ago or something, or like 10 years ago. So it's a bit fuzzy. I know the general concepts. So obviously this one is a bit more of a musical. You'll find that out very fast, which I think is interesting, adds a touch that makes it different from the original one. And I guess it contributes to its faster pace. But I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know how to feel about the movie initially because it's so fast, hits you with so many jokes that, like, even though a lot of the jokes are bad, since it hits you with so many jokes, eventually it gets you a good one. When you're literally getting slapped in the face with joke after joke after joke, like eventually one's gonna make you laugh. And that's kind of what happened, where it's like 3 jokes in a row fall flat on their face. And then the fourth one, pretty funny. Like, that's literally kind of how they decided to take this approach, which worked for them because at first I was kind of thinking it's like you can't even mentally process this movie because everything is going by too fast. But at the same time, it kind of worked in a sense because they helped them cover up the bad parts because it was just so fast they forgot about it. It was just like, I made a joke and it sucked. We're gonna just hop the ship and jump in. And then the next joke, what joke? I don't know what topic you're talking about. We're in this joke. There's literally amazing how they were able to kind of execute this. Now, afterwards, after like I say half the movie, I would say it kind of started slowing down a little bit and it started becoming more manageable. But it was kind of a pleasant surprise, I would say. I wasn't expecting it to be remotely good at all. I was expecting it to be atrocious. Now, I don't really feel like necessarily any character was like super weak. Like, I actually felt like they all kind of had their place. Honestly, I don't know how I felt about the Regina character, honestly, at first, because it felt like too much. It was like they were trying so hard to be like their like original. It was like, oh, forcing her to be the most liked. Even though I don't feel necessarily that she portrayed initially as like the super popular. It felt like it was forced by the surroundings, if that makes sense. It was forced by the surroundings in the sense that she wasn't like exuding so much energy. The energy was exuding artificially around her. So even though she, yes, played the role well, it didn't feel like most of it was coming from the actress. It felt like most of it was coming from the environment, which I think is really interesting to think about because to be able to artificially inflate an environment around a character to make it go into a certain direction. I mean, of course, they do that all the time, but to the extent that it was done in this movie is kind of bizarre because by herself, it would have just been like, she's a popular girl, but they like made this royalty, like a queen, like slave for her. Like, I don't even know. The last thing I really want to comment on is how they weren't afraid to make jokes that were slightly more risky, I'd say. Like, I feel like these days people are afraid to make jokes, and they really weren't because of how many jokes they were throwing. I know apparently I've been told that some of the jokes were actually from the original and they were like tampered down a little bit, but like it still came off as funny. Like I know they tampered down some of the insults that they did from the original 2004 film into this one because it was kind of similar according to people that I watched it with that remember the original. But I feel like the jokes weren't afraid to shy away from like stereotypes and other things that were actually funny. Not all of them, don't get me wrong. It was so many that at least 40% had to be funny. But since it was so many, like that's a lot. And you'll understand if you watch it. So honestly, I'll have to give it a light 7 because I honestly wasn't sure at the beginning, but after it kind of settled a little bit, yeah, I kind of felt it. It felt like decently solid. So don't be too scared of the beginning of the movie because there's a lot of newspaper headlines flying in your face. But I think you definitely give this one a chance. I think it was one of the better remakes out there since historically remakes are bad. So it being at least a 7 makes it automatically one of the better remakes. Either way, I'm switching it up today. I'm gonna give you 2 spectacular recommendations for you to watch. You need to watch. If you love Pink just as much as Mean Girls, you need to watch my Barbie review, because that Barbie review gets all Pinktaculous. That was terrible. But the other one you should watch is my Red, White, and Royal Blue review, because that one, as a non-fan, someone who didn't read the books, you were able to kind of see from an outsider perspective if it was actually a good movie. So here's 2 lovely reviews that you can go check out, and I'll see you in the next one.